If you're watching this video, you're probably at that stage on your photography, videography journey where you've seen a few close-ups of some insects, flowers, twigs and mosses, mushrooms, fungi, and you think, ooh, I need a macro lens. So you're currently researching which ones to buy. You might be considering spending £1,000 on a lens, but the fact is, most people buy a macro lens, use it 2 or 3 times, and never use it again, and they've spent hundreds of pounds. Or you could just spend £30 buying a set of extension tubes, get the close-up fever out of your system, and then decide whether or not you really do want to splash out hundreds of pounds on a dedicated macro lens. Extension tubes go between your lens and the camera body. They move the lens further away from the sensor, and the result of that is that they suddenly allow you to focus much closer than you could previously. I'll show you an example with this lens. With this lens set to 75mm, this is as close as I could get to a curled up millipede. Add the extension tubes and I can suddenly get this close. It's a massive difference, and no, it's not 100% a true macro lens, but it does get you close enough to get shots that are pretty much macro. These kits usually come with 2 different tubes that you can add, and the more of these you attach, the closer you can focus. You can buy manual extension tubes, or you can buy automatic extension tubes. Automatic extension tubes have got electrical connections in them, and so you can still use autofocus, although sometimes it doesn't work that great, and a lot of the time you're just better switching to manual. But yeah, adding a set of these will let you get macro shots with pretty much any lens. It's good to experiment with different lenses using the tubes, because different lenses by default will have different minimum focusing distances, so that'll change how close you can actually get. But I've managed to get some incredible shots with these tubes that I just could not have got without them. Personally, I'm really lazy, so the way I use these tubes is I put them on the camera, I set it to shoot 100 frames per second or 200 frames a second slow motion, and then I just kind of hand hold the shots, moving in and out, often using manual focus to line up my shots. If you're a bit more sort of dedicated than that, you could use a tripod, you could use a gimbal to try and get your shots to be a lot smoother. I use slow motion and then a little bit of post stabilization to get pretty much all the shots that you've seen here. Now, there are some disadvantages to these tubes. The main disadvantage is that once you've added them to the camera, you can only close focus. You can't just suddenly, focus at something a couple of centimeters away, turn around and try and shoot the landscape, because, well, that will no longer work. It'll just be completely blurry. A dedicated macro lens will let you use that. You could use a dedicated macro lens to shoot a portrait of somebody and then spin around and shoot a buggy wuggy. Doesn't work with these, but again, you're talking a massive difference in cost. £30 versus hundreds and hundreds of pounds for a dedicated macro lens. Another possible issue you might run into, you can see there's a little bit of a wobble in there, and I've never actually found a set of these that are really solid. So sometimes the connection can be iffy, and the autofocus will sometimes work and sometimes not work. Although half the time I find I just get the best results just using it in manual. One other tip is that you might want to have your f-stop quite high if you use a shallow depth of field. For example, and this is an f2.8 lens. If I use that, sometimes it's really shallow depth of field and it's hard to get much in focus. Whereas quite a lot of the shots you've seen, I was actually shooting at f14. So you need either a lot of light, so outdoors, studio lights, or you need a camera that's capable of really high ISOs. This is the Sony a7S Mark III, and it can shoot up to like 128,000 ISO quite smoothly. So your results may vary, but yeah, extension tubes, a very budget way of getting the macro fever out of your system. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you find this useful. If you did find it useful, consider subscribing for more tech videos.